Welcome to this explainer. I was genuinely surprised when digging into today's topic because we are looking at a vehicle that is wildly misunderstood. We're talking about the BMW i4, specifically the high-performance M60 variant. Now, on paper, it looks like just another incredibly heavy electric vehicle relying on brute force and a bunch of software. But the reality? Well, the reality is something entirely different, and I absolutely cannot wait to share what the data and real-world testing actually reveal about this machine. So, what are we doing today? We've got two main goals in this explainer. First, we're going to expose the massive, and I mean massive, gap between how this car actually drives versus how it's been marketed to the public. And second, we're going to dive into the smartest financial strategies for putting one of these in your garage. Because buying a modern premium EV really isn't like buying a traditional gas car, and your strategy definitely needs to adapt.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. Marketing versus reality, driving dynamics, the physics problem, the digital risk, and finally, ownership strategy.
Section 1, Marketing versus Reality. Because, trust me, the numbers do not tell the whole story.
Look at this stark contrast right here. It's actually kind of funny. On one side, you have BMW's actual press release focus. They were out there bragging about silicon carbide inverters. I mean, it literally sounds like a white paper for electrical engineers, right? But on the other side, you see the reality on the road. The engineers actually built what is arguably the best driver's EV in its entire segment. It's a brilliantly composed driving tool. BMW essentially wrote a dry press release about electronics for a car that absolutely dominates on driving dynamics. They sold the tech, but man, they built a true driver's car.
And this disconnect shows up immediately in the performance metrics. BMW officially rates the 0 to 60 acceleration at 3.6 seconds, but real-world testing consistently clocks this car in the low 3-second range. It is much, much quicker than the brochure even claims. And more importantly, this isn't some heroic one-time launch control trick that you just use to scare your passengers and then never touch again. It's an accessible, immediate thrust that's available to you at virtually any road speed, and it stays entirely composed in a straight line.
But, okay, there is a catch, and it's a very modern performance reality. To get that absolute maximum 593 horsepower out of the M60, you have to activate Sport Boost. When you start the car, it defaults to comfort mode, which gives you a very respectable 510 horsepower. But that peak number, you actually have to actively ask for it. It's a temporary setting, not a permanent state. Now, it's not going to ruin your life, but it definitely requires a level of software literacy that previous generations of sports sedans simply didn't demand. Moving right along to Section 2, Driving Dynamics. This is absolutely a BMW first and an electric vehicle second.
So, the regenerative braking in B mode isn't just there for saving battery life, it is a full-on dynamic tool. When you lift off the throttle on a winding road, it scrubs speed just like engine braking would in a gas car, which allows you to beautifully balance the chassis right on corner entry. The dampers are phenomenal too. They just acknowledge rough roads and swallow the potholes without ever getting sloppy. And while the electrically assisted steering wheel might feel a tiny bit numb, the chassis itself is constantly gossiping with you. Through the seat, you know exactly what all 4 tires are doing at any given moment. Plus, there's a great tech bonus. Waze runs natively right in the instrument cluster via Apple CarPlay. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole situation. Tesla wins the internet, BMW wins the road. If you are cross-shopping this with a Model 3 Performance, yeah, they might look super comparable on a spreadsheet because the horsepower numbers are in the same zip code, but dynamically, they don't overlap at all. If you actually care about how a car takes a set through a corner and absorbs road imperfections, the BMW is the clear, undisputed winner.
Which brings us to Section 3, the physics problem. Because at the end of the day, weight just does not lie.
2.3 tons. To put that into perspective, that is roughly 5,000 pounds. This is by no means a lightweight sports car. Adding that front motor to make this the all-wheel drive M60 shifts the weight distribution to 48% in the front and 52% in the rear. And if you know what you're looking for, you can definitely feel that extra mass, especially just a tiny hint of understeer on really aggressive corner exits before the software steps in and sorts it all out. The chassis is incredible at masking it, but the mass is undeniably there. And all that mass? It has very real-world consequences. This simple equation really explains it all. Instant torque plus heavy weight equals extreme rear tire wear. Physics always wins, folks. Real-world owners are reporting that the rear tires, especially the factory Bridgestones, are completely wiped out between 15,000 and 22,000 miles. Think about it. You are driving a 5,000-pound missile with instantaneous power. Of course it is going to eat rubber. You simply have to budget for rear tires the exact same way you budget for property taxes.
All right, Section 4, the digital risk. Let's talk about planned obsolescence.
So with traditional cars, our primary fear was always mechanical wear, right? The engine blowing up, the transmission slipping. But today, with a premium EV, the real threat is software and ADAS, or advanced driver assistance systems, becoming totally obsolete. These high-end EVs are absolutely packed to the brim with proprietary tech. The real danger is that in 8 to 10 years, when the manufacturer decides to stop pushing software updates to the infotainment system, your brilliant driving machine essentially becomes a very fast, very expensive digital paperweight.
So here's the really crucial point. The battery actually isn't the problem at all. EV haters love to cite battery degradation as the ultimate flaw, but owner-submitted data for the i4 shows the state of health holding incredibly strong at 94 to 96%, even after 50,000 miles. The physical battery hardware is remarkably robust. The true risk isn't the battery dying. The risk is the computer interface aging out.
Finally, Section 5, Ownership Strategy. Here is exactly how to put this thing in your garage. Let's look at this brilliant market philosophy: rent the premium, own the rational. Column 1 shows exactly why leasing, especially for corporate fleets, is the absolute ultimate move for a premium EV like the i4. By leasing, you completely offload that digital risk we just talked about. You get a totally transparent total cost of ownership, you get to enjoy the cutting-edge tech for 3 to 4 years, and then you just hand the keys back before it becomes that digital paperweight. On the flip side, Column 2 reminds us that if you are actually buying an EV to own long-term, it should probably be a simple, rational city car where the basic battery and motor tech will be perfectly fine for decades.
But hey, what if you really want to buy the i4 secondhand? It is super tempting because the first owner absorbs that massive initial depreciation drop. Well, if you go this route, you need to follow this pragmatic checklist. Number 1, demand an official state of health report for the battery. Do not skip that. Number 2, check the rear tire tread immediately. Remember our physics lesson from earlier? And number 3, keep a healthy emergency fund for electronic module failures, because I promise you, fixing an out-of-warranty ADS sensor on a modern BMW is definitely not cheap.
So, I want to leave you all with this provocative final thought. Will software ever truly replace the perfect calibration of a mechanical chassis? The BMW i4 M60 really proves that right now, the best EVs are the ones that rely on brilliant, old-school mechanical engineering to hide their digital mass. Today, we've unpacked the clash between marketing and reality, the unavoidable physics of heavy EVs, the looming digital risks, and the smartest ways to own one. And with that, we wrap up today's explainer. I want to extend a massive, direct, and enthusiastic thank you to all of you for giving us your time today. Your continued support is exactly what makes these deep dives possible. Stay curious, keep learning, and I will catch you on the next explainer.